Monday morning. It is July 11th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and this is Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom. Every Monday morning, artists from all around the world are encouraged to join in, do some warm-up exercises, and then zoom in yourself to join James. It's pretty awesome. Now, before the show starts, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Reinventing the Tattoo Network, which is what we're beaming out from, or where you're listening into the replay from. We don't have any ads or anything during the shows, so yeah, thanks for bearing with us a little bit as we talk about this. If this is working for you, then please let us know in the comments or the chat rooms if you're live. And here we go. So this is Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are all encouraged to join into these live streams or to enjoy the replays, to meet us at real-world events, ultimately to share, inspire each other, and create better art and tattoos. We're beaming out 5 or 6 days a week, and with your help, have actually turned into a pretty awesome network of tattoo reality shows, tattoo TV shows. I don't know. It is very real. It's not like what the point is. Thank you for tuning in. Now, not sure where you're beaming in from. Here are the list of places that you could find us. If you do a search for Reinventing the Tattoo in either of the app stores, that's the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, the YouTube channel, Roku. If you have a Roku, you could download us there. We've got the 24/7 going on there. And then all the podcasts. So that would be Apple, Spotify, I think Amazon's got them. Just do a search for Reinventing the Tattoo and then give us a subscribe or a follow. It helps. Also, those reviews help if you want to give us positive ones. Constructive criticisms come straight to management at Reinventing the Tattoo. Okay, now I talked about all of the different places where you might be beaming in from. Oh, could you enable my screen sharing, James?
Sure can.
You could always find the latest and greatest from Reinventing the Tattoo and all of the upcoming information on reinventingthetattoo.com, of course. Oh, go away. Okay, let me expand that a little bit. You'll see up here in the upper left, we've got our free resources. You'll see free tattoo courses. Now, of course, we can't teach you how to tattoo for free online. I mean, you can't really learn to tattoo online, but there are pretty awesome courses. We've got the history of electric tattooing. And if you have an apprentice, or even if you don't, and you don't know all of the awesome history of tattooing, this is pretty amazing free course. And yeah, Jay Brown from the Northwest Tattoo Museum puts that on. Let's see, we've got Reinventing the 24/7 link here. So it scrolls us down. And this is the same thing that's on the Roku. You'll see we have all of the replays. So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're sick of the Netflix doom scrolling, you could check out replays of all the drawing groups. So this is these are some of the old Monday morning drawing groups with Jake Meeks. We've got Paint Night with Renee Little. There's a whole Spanish channel here. What others? We got Live in the Castros. This is LGBTQ plus POC. All sorts of awesome interviews with Haley Adams, live from the Castro in San Francisco. Tattoo Machine channel, Tattoo Convention channel, a Marketplace channel for our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring, let us know. We have our community channel, which is where lots of benefits and whatnot will go. Promotions for that. We have the Tattoo History channel, which is pretty amazing. And then last but not least, the Drunk Critique channel. It's pretty nuts. Okay, we support all of this through our sponsors I'll talk about real quick, but we also have our Reinventing the Tattoo canon and evolution and exercises programs, as well as full complete course catalogs with, you can see here, Andre Malcolm, BJ Betts, Bob Tyrell, Christian Perez, Conan Lee, Gabe Ripley, that's me, Guy Aitchison, the amazing Guy Aitchison, Haley Adams, Hunter Spanks, Jake Meeks, Jesse Smith, Lady Sarah, Mike DeVries, Nick Baxter, Nick Mitchell, Thea Duskin, and Tony Urbanik. It is a pretty amazing lineup, obviously, of awesome courses that you could take at any given time. Okay. If you go to reinventingthetattoo.com and you're interested in joining on our free resources, click on upcoming events. It's going to scroll us down to the calendar here. This is a Google Calendar. Click on the link here. This is for Monday, July 11th. Holy shit, I can't believe it's the 11th already. And boom, right here is the link that says Artists Zoom In. So if you want to join us, click it. Now, if you do join us, make sure that you stop the stream in the background. Otherwise, we'll get some echo panic, and no one wants that. So, but if you're interested in joining, that is exactly how you do it. Okay, let me get back to my script here so that we could get on with the show here. Okay, oh yeah, so that calendar has all of our weekly shows, including drawing groups with Jason Leeser on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. This show here at 9 o'clock every morning. We've got 11 o'clock every morning is the Tattoo Weekly with Jake Meeks, Lauren Gregory, and I. We talk about what happened last week and what's happening next week. Sometimes we actually have pretty awesome interviews too. Let's see, Mondays at 9 p.m. is a subscribers exercise with Guy Aitchison. So if you're not part of the evolution exercise, you want to make sure you hop on the next round. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. are another drawing group with Ricardo Strovenant. Wednesdays at 1 o'clock is the Tattoo Now show with me, where I actually stay on and do some interviewing and whatnot. Thursdays at 6 p.m. is the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast, live from Red Tree Tattoo with Jordan Ruckus, Fawn Baker, and a whole crew of people. Okay, real quick. Sponsors that help these network shows happen, like clockwork. Rawpigments.co, any company that's getting their ingredients straight from the source. They are acrylic free and they don't dry out in the cup. You could definitely give them a shot. There's we'll check out Lauren's got a lot of videos. Do a search for Raw Pigments or rawpigments.co. WorldTattooEvents.com, Alex Van Dutch's amazing resource for tattoo conventions. If you are looking to go to a convention or a tattooer looking to find one to go to, WorldTattooEvents.com. TattooNow.com, I do technology for tattooers, and I've got some pretty awesome packages coming up. So if you're interested in, actually communicating, doing a lot more management and communications and automated personalized systems, it's pretty awesome. For years, I've helped people build a clientele, a couple of years helping them protect it. And now, back to now it's really about organization. It seems like every tattooer is way busier than they ever have been. So figuring out communications with everybody, saving time. Anyways, that's tattoonow.com. Last, but actually first in this case is Guy Aitchison, guyaitchison.com. Guy started the whole reinventing community, movement, culture, everything. Started off as a 3-ring binder that was a supplement to his first seminar in the early 90s, 92, 93, 94-ish. And has evolved into, then it went to a book, and then books with DVDs, and then an online resource about 10 years ago. And now it's like a full online platform. I guess we saw it earlier. If you go to Reinventing, you can see all the different things that you could learn there. But okay, so Guy has his Biomech Encyclopedia, which I'm actually going to show off on the Tattoo Weekly at 11 o'clock. I'm going to start doing a book review segment there. How about that? A book review segment. Yes. I got a nod of approval from James. Thank you. So let's see. Okay. Also, Guy's got his DVDs. He's got tattoo machines. He's got actual paintings for sale. He's got prints, all sorts of great stuff. GuyAitchison.com. Okay. I'm going to hop into the background here. And as I do so, I'm going to remind you to please leave your positive reviews on all the channels, because the positive reviews on young channels like this are awesome. And I talked about Reinventing being old, but all these channels are about a year and a half old. So please tell everybody how much you loved James's show in the Reinventing Network. And there we go. Welcome to the show. Take it away, James.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks for coming to the show today, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to Drawing for Tattooers. I'm James Wisdom, and I just want to thank Gabe and Guy and the whole Reinventing the Tattoo crew. Without you, this really wouldn't be possible. So I have one more person to thank. Harriet Wisdom is joining us today. My mom. Without my mom, none of this would be possible. So hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mom. Hey.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I'm
okay?
so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that we could connect here again. So last week was 4th of July, and we did a very special family edition of the show, and but I don't think it like cut the mustard, right? Like there was some technical issues, so we're basically going to do the same lesson again, and why not? Because that way, practice makes perfect. And so I want to kind of just sort of preface what we're doing. We're going to start drawing a skull, and see. So the skull is, like is what houses your brain. It's where your eyes live. It's where you eat from. It's a really important part of your anatomy. So everyone has a skull. So it's a valuable thing to learn about. And so we'll talk a little bit about anatomy. I'm going to show a couple of books too. I know that Gabe is going to show guys Encyclopedia Biomechanica. Okay, I won't show it off, but I'll show you this massive twin volumes. So that's the sneak peek. So join Gabe. It's heavy. Join Gabe later today if you want to see more of that one, because it's it's an awesome set of books. Right. So
sorry, real quick, I'll just jump in. Thanks for the plug. It is amazing, and it's so big. And like part of that is an actual demonstration. The book is fucking massive. It costs as much to send it to Australia as it costs to buy the book. It's unbelievable. Anyways, yeah. Thank you. Cheers.
No, yeah, cheers. It really. I'm working my way through it. It's full of images. It's incredible. So thank you, Guy, and all the other contributors to it, because it was a group effort, and so it really is it's a beautiful thing. So, and books are cool, and so I think sometimes it's kind of like it's easy to just be so digital all the time, and to always be on your phone or always be on your computer. But I honestly get a lot from taking a little break and reading a book. So make that a part of your drawing practice, right? Reading books is crucial for artists. So yeah, let me just quickly. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay. Right. So.
Yes.
Right. You can see it. Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. Well, I want to talk about real quick. First, we're going to cover a couple of authors today, but I want to start with Andrew Loomis and his series of books. This one, Drawing the Head and Hands, I think is really quite good, and it has a wealth of knowledge and information. So it's certainly one that you may want to add to your collection if you like drawing figures, if you like drawing portraits and stuff. So let me jump over here. All right, so I prepared a couple of plates just so that way we can kind of get the gist of it, get an overview. Let me see. Spread it out a little bit. All right, so drawing men's heads. He divides up the sexes, men and women, and then children. And so I think what Loomis is trying to get here with this simple constructive method is a way of freedom, right? This is a way to sort of scientifically break down the geometry of the head, because your head is always the same, right? But if you look at it from different angles, it looks different, right? Through our imaginations, through our consciousness and our perception, we're able to determine the same identity through all these different views, right? All of these different like perspectives that we may have. So it is kind of a magical thing, but it's really based in a physicalness, in a geometry that that you can understand, right? That we can understand, and so the complexity of the human form and the human head, I think you can break it down into these simple ideas, and that will it'll help you out when you're struggling through the process, right, of drawing the most complicated thing there is, and that's the human body, right? And for tattooers, you might draw human bodies on human bodies. If that, if you draw a portrait on if tattoo a portrait on somebody or a figure or something, it really can be a magical thing, right? It can almost become animated, right? So here's just some of the phases, that Loomis talks about. Draw a sphere, right? Make it volumetric, right? Through an elliptical form, right? These are ellipses that travel around the sphere. I'm gonna head back up here real quick. He's suggesting you sort of slice off a small portion off either side, and that gives you the side planes of the head, as you can see. They're beautifully illustrated in Head and Hands. So, but any Andrew Loomis book that you get is actually really pretty good. So, so just a couple of different ways that you can move this around in space. If you don't have there's some reading too. There's some really interesting, things to say. And so this is the form that I was, I talked about it a little bit last week. If anybody got a chance to see it, it's I think it's very clearly illustrated here. But for those of you who you're really interested in this sort of thing, pick up this book, or you can always search out these images. They're really quite ubiquitous, as far as art references, right? So so I really like this idea here, right? We have a sphere volumetric form. This is going to shape the cranium, right? It's the place where your brain goes. And then couple that up with this middle line, this sort of central line of the face, right? This joins the cranial mass to the facial mass. So, the mask of the face is attached to the cavity, right, that holds the brain. And so it joins here. If you can see you probably can't see my cursor. There's a strong cross section in the upper right hand example. And that intersection of the middle line and the brow, the eyebrow ridge, you can see, if you look down here, the eyebrow ridge and then the center line, if you can achieve that balance, you're going to end up with a type of symmetry that works in perspective, right? Because the face is somewhat symmetrical, depending on who you are. But it can be a challenge to know where to place proportionate features. And so this simple way of breaking things down, it can be really useful, right? Skull. That's what we're going to be drawing today, is a skull. So, so I've got this. Let me see here. All right, we're going to draw a skull. But real quick, one more book, right? We're doing book reviews today, right? But one more book, and I just got this one. This is Stonehouse's Anatomy. This book, this is probably the most incredible anatomy book I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen a lot of them because, it's like required reading when you're studying like academic drawing and you want to like learn how to draw the figure. You got to learn all the anatomy. We're not going to try to do that here today. But if you're interested, there's resources for you. And I think, I think it's valuable. But I think a lot of our, we understand the head pretty intuitively. So, don't get intimidated by the language, right? So if we use phrases that are, that sound foreign or Latinish, that's it. So here in Stonehouse's, there's a same thing. Let's draw a skull, and you can see it really, very, very similar type of lesson as we were seeing in Loomis. So just a real connection from something that was a little older to something much more contemporary. This way. This one. This is a really great book. So I'm Super Annie. Highly recommend it. Okay, So why don't we go ahead and let's get to our drawing. So I'm going to switch my camera here. All right, let's see. Cool. So hopefully you can see my camera, and it's looking okay. Reach over.
It's good.
Great.
Good.
Thanks, Mom. Okay. So I drew this skull, just sort of thinking about our lesson today and what we're going to cover. And I can do this real quick. If I go here, there's a video. Here we go. So replay. So this was the process that I used to draw this skull, and there was some there was some starts and some stops, right? But I think what's been really interesting is to try to really apply some of these much older ideas about how to construct images, how to make drawings happen. But then you couple that with the power of this digital media through we're harnessing Procreate today, but with this Photoshop or whatever, right. So keep adding on. There's some small it started off with a really simple block in, if you notice, and then it was really kind of a matter of like picking the values that are going to describe this as a form. Again, it can be sort of tricky, when you it can be kind of tricky when like you're looking at the skull, or you're looking at somebody's portrait and you want to draw it and you're not sure like what's what, right? So the anatomy can be really helpful, but also like learning how value works. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit today, and we're going to do some drawing. So let me go ahead and I'll put this one in the background here. Cool. And I'm actually gonna duplicate it, because I want to go back to this a little later if there's time, and experiment a little bit. So okay, so a new layer, very nice, great. So if you're ready to go, why don't we just warm up with a couple of our ellipses practice, because I think it's always something that's I think is valuable, just to get warmed up before you really get into intense drawing. Just even if you just scribble or doodle or something, that can really be a good thing to do. So all right, so we're gonna do what I like to call an atomic form today. So we'll start off with a circle here. Let me zoom in, and so it takes up a small amount on my paper. So start off with a circle as best as you can, right? I always giggle at it because it's so bad, but start off with a circle, okay? And then we'll draw an ellipse, right? It starts to become more volumetric, similarly to how we were looking at Andrew Loomis's volumetric drawing. Another ellipse, another ellipse, another ellipse, right? That's 5, right? So circle, 1, 2, 3, 4 ellipses, that's 5, right? So let's give it a try. If we do 10 of these, then we've done 50 of our ellipses, which is it's just a fun number to get to. No real reason. It kind of rhymes, 50 ellipses. I hope. I don't know. I'm dumb. Anyway, let's do it. All right. So circle 1, right? Ellipse 2, 3, 4, and 5. Cool. And let's do another one, right? Practice makes perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Back it up a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on. If you notice, like I drew this one, it was kind of crappy. This is a little bit harder for me, and then I think that this one that way is a little bit better for me, right? You may find that drawing ellipses one particular way is a little bit better for you. That's cool. And I would, like you can own that, but if you want to get outside your comfort zone and, just try to do them all different kinds of ways. That's really what I want to encourage. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. 1, 2, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So zoom in a little tighter and create some space. We'll make ourselves small here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of like ASMR. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's do one more, and I'm gonna switch over to my non-dominant hand, and I'm generally a righty, but I'm gonna put it in my left hand and see how I do. So here goes nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Maybe the best one yet. Maybe that was the best one today, huh? What do you know? Fun. Yeah, maybe I am left-handed at heart, So you never know until you try, right? If you sort of tell yourself I am this all the time, you may sort of miss. You may miss something. So anyways, maybe while not much to look at, I think getting in that rhythm is good. And and I think I just want to sort of preface, I talk a lot about drawing from the shoulder and using your arm to draw with. This isn't to sort of make you feel bad or make you think that that you're doing it wrong. Again, I think it's a practice that it can open up other possibilities for you. So it's merely a suggestion. But there are other practical reasons why you may not want to do focus all of your action right on your wrist. It's pretty intricate area of your body, as we covered some of the anatomy in an earlier episode, but you can imagine that you need your wrists for your whole life. If you're gonna have hands and arms, your wrist needs to work. So so think about it, try to take care, think about your body, think about your posture. Again, not to be all pretentious about it. It's not that. It's when you practice when you're thinking about posture, when you're thinking about using your body to do drawings or to do any sort of physical thing, I think that's taking care of yourself. And so if you're doing something and it really is starting to hurt or bother you, you should take a break and figure out what's going on. Maybe you need to adjust, try something new, whatever the case may be. So okay, so I think we can get into it. So I'm gonna put that in the background and add another layer. Okay, so again, just to kind of get you all hooked up, I'm using Procreate, and then what I ended up doing was I took the background color of the canvas, right? So you open up the layers panel. You can see that there's a background color option, right? So you can click on it, and I have mine set to a little bit darker than 50% gray. You can see that this swatch here is a gradient, and it goes, just to sort of explain it, because like you might look at this and say like, oh, maybe you can figure it out. Maybe it's somewhat intuitive, but if we kind of look at what's happening, there is a relationship of tonal value. So light to dark over here, right? And then over on the other side, we have like intensity. So intensity of hue. We'll get more into that on color theory, but you can see how intense it is over here, right? And then it's becoming, it's becoming less intensified, but it's becoming, it's becoming grayed out and darker over here, but still within an intense version of the hue. Over here, just more of a neutralized tonal value. So set your background color to a little bit darker than the stark white, if you like. I think it's useful. So just a tip, right? All right, I'm on a layer. Very good. What brush am I using right now? Let's see. Technical pen. So today I'm gonna use my technical pen, and I'm gonna use the marker a little bit as well to sort of block things in. Getting familiar with all your brushes, I think, can be helpful when you're when you're like using this program. So let's see. So we have another participant. So let me let them in. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, welcome.
Hello.
All right. Hi, welcome. I can't. How do you say your name? It's like it's fucking Nesson. I'm sorry. What's
Yeah.
your name? What's your name, man?
Jeremy Burt.
Hey, it's great to have you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for coming. Are you going to draw along with us today?
I have just brought a drawing with me.
Cool. Show it. Let's see it.
So yeah, please go on.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's see. Let me spotlight your drawing so everyone can see it.
And if you could turn your phone sideways, well, it's good for now. It looks great. But when you turn your phone sideways, there you go. Then we get the full.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Are we seeing
There it is. Yeah,
seeing the drawing now?
you can see the drawing. Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Yeah. So I like it. I think I think it shows some perspective, and it's super tattooable. If I was going to give a little bit of feedback, I think it might just be like in working through the ribbon just a little bit more to get it nice and smooth. But for the most part, it has a real nice rhythm. It also continues, so it looks like it's going in front of the dagger and behind it. And so I think you're really there. Add a little bit of shading to it, and I think that's really gonna set it off too. So is that a tattoo that you're gonna be doing?
Yeah, I've been drawing the same tattoo like a couple of years. I do all my own tattoo work.
You tattoo yourself? Breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was I liked it. You know, I thought it was I thought it was a really good start. And honestly, I'm really super stoked that you decided to come and participate today, and then also like, you know, to show your drawing. I think is like it takes like courage. You know what I mean, to show off and to put yourself out there for critique and stuff. So thank you, Jeremy. I'm gonna go ahead and
Always.
jump into the drawing part now. So let me see. All right. Okay. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Cool. Right. So just try to go through some of the steps that we saw earlier, sort of, described in the reading that we were talking about. And also I have a skull here as a reference. It's always nice to have something, like physical in front of you to draw from life, but you can always use a photograph as a reference. But one thing I would recommend is, drawing it rather than tracing it. There's going to be times when you're going to need to trace, and there's certainly going to be, a lot of call for it. So practice your tracing, absolutely. But there's something else that you get from drawing from life. So let's go ahead and, we'll get started. So again, I'm gonna practice some of the measuring techniques that I, had sort of we talked about last time. So, certainly I can, if I'm going to measure, I want to close one of my eyes, and I want to use, my implement to sort of measure, like sort of I want it to be as, I'm going to hold it a certain way for the camera, but I'm going to use my thumb to sort of end the measurement down here, and then the tip of my implement right at the highest point, right? And I can compare that to the width, right? So got a cheekbone there, zygomatic arch, that's the name for it, and then back there at the posterior portion of the cranium, right? So the back of the skull. So we're sort of finding this relationship. See, yeah, like this to this, and it's pretty much vertically and horizontally, right? They're like the same amount, right? So that's a good place to start. And so continue to sort of find those relationships. I think that's good, but we can start off with our sphere. I think it's, the sphere, that's what Loomis was talking about, right? So sphere, and then we want to find the center line. For me, my perspective is going to be a little different than what you're seeing of the skull. So I'm going to be drawing it from my perspective, but for you, whatever your reference is, use it. And then I think the same sort of these things apply whether you're drawing a skull or not. So let's see. For me, my center line is like here, and just I'm looking at it pretty much head on, as it were. So, and again, I'm missing, knock that back just a little bit right here. So I've got a sphere, I've got sort of the center line, right, of the skull. Okay. And then again, we can do some measurement, right? So if we're thinking about a general proportion for the skull, we can think about right here, the top of the hairline, right? Or this sort of right where your forehead ends, right? It starts to become the top part of the skull. Right there. So I'm just going to put a hash mark for that hairline, right? So the hairline, and then let's see. It's really like there's like an ellipse, right? That cuts through the center of the sphere, but I'm slightly looking down at it, so this center ellipse that takes up half of the sphere. That's going to be here. This is going to be the brow, right? The brow. Okay. And then so proportionately from here to there, that should be the bottom of the nose. I should, so hairline, brow ridge, and then bottom of the nose, right? And then so my example is missing the lower jaw. It would be another proportionate sort of amount. That would be the it's not here, you can imagine it, but where the chin would be down there. So this is a really nice sort of relationship that you can see. Hairline, brow ridge, nose, and then the chin. That'll be it's a good starting point, right? People may deviate from this proportion in certain respects, but it's simply just something that some way to get you started, right? So let's see here. All right. So again, we're going to do that. I sort of chop off a little portion, sort of flatten out, because the head there's this roundedness to it. It really is. You can really think of it as being constructed with planes, right? It's almost like the like the sides of a box, or I have this little wooden block. You can see that if I hold it, there's a top, right? And there's sides, right? There's an underneath side that we know exists, but we can't see it, right, because of our perspective. So, it's physical, just like the skull is, right? It has planes, but some of the planes aren't, quite so right angled. They're more subtly shifting, right? But it's a good way to sort of break down this complexity of it. So let's see, it's the bottom of the nose, and then I can do just a little bit of measurement. I'm gonna do it for myself. Let's see. So I'm from here to here to let's see. Right. So from there to there. Right. So about halfway up top of the nape, but I'm just going to use it real quick to. That's going to be that should be where my teeth end, right there roughly. So just a quick couple of measurements, and I'm able to sort of discern where the teeth are going to end up. So that's kind of nice. So just bring my center line all the way down. Okay, good. So kind of we're somewhat similar to our references earlier, right? We started with like a sphere, and then we divided it up, and we gave it a center line. I think the first anatomical bit to go for is right here, the brow ridge to the nose. So the eyebrows to the nose. This little part of the glabella, don't have to remember it. Again, I think learning anatomy terms for it can be really useful, but just right between the eyes there. Again, it's that strong shape that we saw, and so depending on your perspective, right, that's gonna sort of determine like how this you want it to be. You want it to appear as if they're perpendicular, right? In perspective, perpendicular, looks warped. It can still read like perpendicular, right? So I'm gonna knock that back. That's what's really nice about working digitally too, is like you can try something, be brave, and very well like not like it, but you can step back, right? Or you can add another layer. This is really a time saver, and it's also it's I think it can keep can help it can help you like be more brave, and also maybe not ruin as many artworks. It could also get you into trouble, right, if you overuse it. So all things in moderation. Okay, so far so good. Next, I'm just going to like sort of establish. I want to establish the lower part of the orbits. The orbits is your your ocular cavities, right where your eyeballs go. And I don't like how dark that is. Whatever, keep it sketchy. I am just a little bit more free and loosely, and totally fine. But again, just I think a little bit, I composed roughly where it was going to go. I composed the top and the bottom and the sides, right? I had an idea where the target's going to be. So rather than just starting off with the eyeball, I established a little bit of structure because I want to get to some of these features, the things that make this skull unique. But, if I don't give myself some parameters, it would be easy to sort of, go out of control, as it were, right? So, and I like the metaphor of the banks of what make the river possible, right? So that's what parameters can do for you. They can actually give you a lot of strength and a lot of power. So a little bit of structure can go a long way. All right, so I have some stuff established, and again, my perspective that I'm drawing it from is a little bit different than green. But all for you, you can just draw this one. All right, so just sort of citing some angles here, a little bit of the zygomatic bone, that's the cheekbone. Blocking it in, I'm looking at the shapes, a little bit, I think, so that way it's a little bit of character, right? It has a little bit of character. It's not just a photograph, it's a drawing. And I'm gonna get rid of this, clear my visual field. So I just on my eraser, right? I'm using syrup as my eraser brush. You can use whatever one you like. Again, I'm gonna come over here. For me, you can move this around, actually, this panel, but for me, my panel's over here, and so this is the side brush, right? This top, this thing, and then this slider, this gives it opacity, right? So if I really just wanted to erase something, or, I really want to retain it, I can use this lighter eraser, but if I really want to, I can do that, right? So I'll just a little bit bigger, right? So, okay, cool. All right, so so far so good. Let's see, a little bit of angle here, zygomatic arch. To the maxilla. The maxilla is your upper dental area here, the bone that holds your teeth. So let's see here. Again, I'm just gonna lock it in. Surprisingly, I think we think about like teeth as being so white, but or like that's what we want, right? We want these really pearly white teeth. But in all honesty, like there really should be shaded. In our case, we have like down facing plane. Like there's some downward facing planes, but then also there's a little crest that catches a little highlight, so that will sort of determine each one. But teeth inside of the mouth, generally they're going to be sort of shaded by the lips and stuff. With the sclera of the eyes, that's we call it the whites of the eyes. A lot of times artists will just make the eyes way too bright, because so that's where we see greatest sort of value range. But if you can squint your eyes, you'll notice that that they're actually quite. That's what I'm gonna do next. I think is I'm gonna ask everybody, as you're getting your, hopefully it's looking good, you're feeling confident. Next, I'm gonna use a different tool here. I'm gonna get my marker out, and I'll just block in some stuff, but I want to block in the shadow shapes now, the shadow shapes of the skull that I'm looking at. So what I want to do is I'm just going to squint. And so that, I think that means that like you close your eyes down, but you're not trying to blur them. What you're actually trying to do is you're trying to reduce the color information that comes in, and you're sort of picking up the lightness and the darkness, or the tonal value. So squinting is a way that you can determine tonal value. Of course, you can do, if you have a photograph that's in color, you could hit black and white, and that way you could see tonal value as well. But by simply squinting, what you'll notice is the shadow shape, that inside of the cavities of the eyes here, if you squint, they're actually really dark. If I open my eyes wide, I can see a lot of light inside of them, all sorts of details. It's just very dark, right? Especially inside of the nose. So that's what I want to encourage you to do. So do that squint, look for the simplest pattern of shadow that you can, and then just block it in. So I'm going to try to do that real quick. Let's see here, go a little bit bigger. Just a quick block in. And then let's see, over the sides of the planes of it, there's some shadow over there. Some shadow here underneath. Right. Don't worry, especially if you're starting to, to get some buildup here, you can always like knock it back with your eraser, but sort of just block it in. Just block it in. Don't worry about the details, right? What you're just trying to do is you're just trying to establish, the light and the dark relationship. And then of course, the light and the dark relationship is going to, be, the most important thing. But what it actually reveals is the positive and negative relationship, right? And this is something that Guy Aitchison talks about a lot, especially, when you're dealing with tattoos. I think we can get real close to it, especially, if you're a tattooer and you're doing tattoos often, you're probably very close to your work, right? You're probably looking at it at really close range. But what really starts to count is the silhouette that we start to see. We start to see the actual, the form of the thing, and then either, how it has to relate to its ground, right? There has to be a figure ground relationship. There has to be a positive negative relationship. So you really start to do that, I think, with sort of developing the tonal value. Right. So for me, it's starting to come together. And I'm not going my darkest darks just yet. I'm just sort of blocking things in and trying to get that simple light and dark pattern, right? Let's call it the shadow shapes, but that's all we mean is the pattern of lights and darks. So there, add a little bit of value. Oop, my brush a little smaller. Right, so a couple different tools, right? I was using the technical pen to do the sketching, right? And then I moved over to the marker. The markers, some of the brushes work differently. Some of them will build up. Some of them will, act more like watercolors and stuff. So it's nice to play around with them and sort of see what is it that you prefer. So again, you kind of start to lose things, but that's where the push and pull will start to happen. All right, so as I squint and I look, I can tell that there's some areas that are darker than I have them. So now that I have this sort of basic, sort of almost like two tones, if you like, I want to try to push the value a little bit darker in a few places, right? So right here, I notice that the cast shadow is very dark. We really only have two different types of shadows to deal with, right? There's the cast shadow, right? The shadow that's being produced by the light being reflected back from the object, right? Anywhere where the light can't get to around the area, around the ground of the object will produce, the phenomenon of the cast shadow. Or cast shadows have really sharp sort of edges to them. So we can see right here along the teeth, a really strong cast shadow. And then there's another one that's in there, just more technical. There's some areas that are called shadows of occlusion. They're these really small darks, these little small, crevices too, very, very dark. And so, so you can look for those after you have this really simple pattern established. Then you can go for those, slightly more, detailed ones. So again, that's a detail, and I probably will just, I'll probably just sort of accent it, just a little bit, rather than try to shape everything out right now. Because again, I think you can just sort of start, all right, here's tooth number 1, tooth number 2, tooth number 3. Well, that could get really, that can get you in a lot of trouble. Instead, really think about like all the teeth as one mass, right? The teeth are kind of one mass of objects, and then you treat them as such, right? And then you can start to individuate them after you have them, like, divided up. So, yeah, lower my opacity. Again, play around with the opacity, and that'll help you, sort of figure out like what's going to give you the right tonal value. So I want a little bit darker, and I'm going to squint. I'm squinting, and so it's dark inside of here. Again, there's still rain. I can still go darker. I can still go, much darker than I have gone over here. Like, very saturated black. So I'm still working my way up to it. So block it. Make the brush a little bit bigger. Block in the cavities, the orbits. That's cool. All right. And again, we can too much. Positive negative relationship, right? We want to emphasize that. My screen's kind of blocking. I don't know. I don't see the shape exactly, but something roughly like that. I also have a little bit of background over here, so again, I'm going to find the angle of it. I'll just visualize it and then bring it over, and there it is. Right, so that's the background, very dark behind the skull, right? So if I squint and I look, it's all around the skull, very, very dark, right? So I don't care about the details yet. I could go in once it's, once all the values are established, I could go in and make it more detailed. But so again, there's the back side of the table. You can see a little detail of it right there. Right. Well, mine's a little. It's a funny angle for me. Let's see, like this. Yeah. The table works like this. All right. Again, just sort of block it in. Don't worry too much. There we go. Very quickly, right? Have some, and then I'll go back here. I can bring a little bit of light. That's where the table sort of the lights. My light's coming from upper left, back and to the left, back and to the left. That's where my light's coming from. So I'm kind of constantly asking myself, oh, where's the light source? Where's the light source at? And if as long as I know that, I can I really can produce the effects that I'm going for. So just a little bit more sort of shaping, right? And then what's sort of nice here, you might sort of find some really lovely lost edges, right? So if I block in a little bit further, I start to lose this edge. Well, maybe I come back with an eraser because I can get it so light, and I can really start to bring back a little bit of the value that makes it discernible from the background, right? You don't want to get too bright on the reflected light, right? So imagine it, right? So the light is striking the skull, right? It's also striking in this case, the table, right? The light that doesn't pass the skull, right, makes a cast shadow. It also describes the form. So that's what we see, the form shadow all over. That's really, that's the other type of shadow, cast shadow and form shadow. Form shadows have a soft edge, and then the cast shadows have a much sharper one. And so anyways, we see the light is striking the object, right? In this case, the skull. And there's a point where the light can't penetrate anymore. Ooh, let me see. and it doesn't. It's now running parallel to the surface, right? So it passes right past, and so what happens is the light strikes the surface and it reflects back, and we get this phenomenon known as reflected light. So I think that'll work. So a little bit of it, right? You can have a little bit of reflected light in some of these, these areas, and that just sort of, it further sort of distinguishes the object from the background. But if your reflected light is brighter than the highlight, which in this case we don't have a highlight yet, it starts to flatten it out, right? You can see it sort of looks somewhat flat, right? So I might sort of, in this case, I might just sort of, I got this the smudging tool just a little bit, right? I can sort of soften this edge a little bit, because that kind of pushes this crest a little bit in the background, just ever so slightly. And then I could also, again, could really very low opacity. I could sort of just glaze over this a little bit more and bring the value down. It still has a little bit lighter than the background, especially since I established it. And now I'm sort of using the same method to sort of block it in. It's still even more so sort of pushes it back. So, pretty nice. Might as well jump in and do a highlight. So I have just a, when you select this color circle right here, up to your, again, see where we see the tonal value, neutral, right? And then we also see, intensity versus low intensity over here, and then just a scale. I have a lighter color sort of picked out already, and this one I'm going to use to add a little bit of highlights. So I'm not going to necessarily. You could establish a just a range, right? A value range. So if I can see, like for me, this is probably the brightest light. This is ultimately the same value, but I can just sort of get in there, push that little highlight, just to start with. You know what I mean? I get too detailed, but so there's that dark to light. So at least I know. And then I probably again, I don't want to put any of this. Let's call it a color. Right? I don't want to put any other color in the shadow side. If I did that, it would really sort of take the form and just get rid of it would get rid of that shift that we established in terms of value. So again, I was going to turn this down. I'm just going to reserve where this goes a little bigger. Reserve where this goes to sort of plane of the skull here, so the top plane of it. Just sort of block in. Again, a little bit block in. A little bit more opacity. Yeah. Hopefully that's starting to show up. Just block it in, block it in. Don't go all over the place. Just sort of squint. Okay, squint, squint, squint. Again, so I've got a side plane here, the same light, but I have, I have this really top arch, this top portion of the eyeball cavity, and but there. Again, that's a detail, probably hold back on that. So let's see. I'm gonna clear the visual field a little bit here. And even though there's some value here, some of these lines are getting in my way. So I just wanna clean it up a little bit. And again, I can always go back and block in. Oh, sorry. That's what's nice. You make a mistake, you cannot easily go back. Oh, that's right. So when I'm switching back and forth between colors, you'll have to remember that, right? So I have a light color and a dark color picked out. So just these light and dark, that's all I'm really using. And then the gray of the back color, that's the third tone. And so I want to just sort of follow that range. That's the range that I'm working in. Using everything all over the place. I'm sort of I'm palette. I'm limiting my value, responsibility, if you like. So so I have, you can see that's your color. Right? Well, you can't see it, but there, right? See it now. That little circle pops up, right? So when I want to go back to the dark one, I just click it and then back to the dark one. And in my history panel right here, just if I just look here, then I've got both of them ready to go. So back to the dark one and just try to block in. Again, I'm still blocking. There's more blocking to do. And then I'll just add a glaze to all of it. Very nice. Keep squinting for the pattern of shadows, and you can squint real hard in the beginning and then squint less hard as you go, and then you start to really see the pattern emerge and all the detail stuff. So pretty good. And then let's see here. Just hit my eraser, and now I'm going to make the opacity a little bit low. I want to address this portion here. And a little bit of this lighter color in this area, but okay. And then a little bit over here. This is the eyebrow. So you do have a little bit of form underneath your eyebrows, and they help, they help the muscles that make your eyebrows move up and down. It gives us so much expression, right? That's how we can sort of read people's minds. You see their eyebrows go up and down, and then you kind of know what somebody's feeling inside. You almost can't help it. Your eyebrow expression will sort of betray, right, what you're trying to hold back inside. So, all right, let's see, I'll lower that down. Again, looking, squinting, and keep on blocking in. I'm not using my marker. Very good. Okay. Let me smudge some of this, and then make it a little sharper. And I'm looking for the shadow. It's a little bit darker here. Right, very nice. Okay, and then it's on the form, it gets a little darker as it hangs out over the table. Woo, that's too dark. Lower that down a little bit, make my brush a little smaller. Again, I'm just sort of sharpening up this, right? So a soft edge back here kind of pushes the eye, sort of off into this, abyss behind, and then sharpen the details as it's closer to our point of view, right? It's a little bit closer, so it's a little bit sharper. All right, I'm just trying to get that shape right. Yeah, that's all right. But I think I want to mess around with a little bit. So another tool you can use, go to this magic wand. Liquify, it's a great tool. To be honest, I really didn't use it very much, but then, hanging out with Guy at the Reinventing classes, he's like, use it. He uses it all the time. And so liquify tool can just sort of, bump things around just ever so much. It's, save you, you know what I mean? I think that looks a little bit better. Sort of, maybe, let's see, maybe this needs to, something like that, right? Just, yeah, like that. Okay. Let's see. How are we doing on time?
Oh, you're about 11 minutes over.
11 minutes over.
Yeah.
Well, I guess hopefully they'll invite me back next week. Oh, so just establishing right here, I can see the edge of my table. It's nice and sharp edge, right? So that's kind of helps you sort of start to see like what's happening. You have these, this series of lost edges, right? You have these edges sharp, these lost edges, sharp table edge, right? Maybe over here it starts to become a little bit sort of lost or something like that. let's see, I could block in the tabletop. So I've got still dark color and I've got my marker on, and I'm not too dark, but I just sort of make it a little bit bigger. Sort of plays into just the value of the table itself, right? I think that again, it gives us more tone. And then what's nice about the mark up, I have a wood grain table, so it's kind of, it almost starts to resemble that wood grain texture. The more sort of, you know, the more that I let it build up, I might actually be able to emulate that a bit, sort of moving quickly. And again, like, I think it's nice from the practice of, you know, using your arms more. Right? You can just get this, you know, much more sort of free movement of your sketch, and not be so limited to, you know, to just, you're gonna have to do this, gang. I don't, you know, I'm not saying this is all the way wrong, but like, if this is all you're doing, you're limiting yourself, right? And then also you might be putting a lot of, you know, stress on your so I think this angle is weird. Let's block that in. A little bit of gradient. Crosshatch, right? Went one way, went another direction. I'm going another direction even still. Because obviously, you know, if I kept just going the same way, I might dig myself into like a trench, you know what I mean? So make that big, make that light, and I'll go across a little bit lighter. Right here. Just lighten that up a little bit. You can use your eraser just like a drawing tool. And then back to the drawing tool. I'll make it just a little bit softer. Okay, good. Cool. So back to it. Just a little bit more push right here. Keep squinting, keep looking. Let's see. Everything all right out there? Sounded like some crashing.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
It's
I'll
okay.
turn it down a little bit.
No, it's all right. Thank you. All righty. We're working through. It's looking pretty nice. Okay, so I can zoom in a little bit, and what a mess. What a mess. I'll just sort of smudge some things around a bit rather than erase, because sometimes the erasing, you know, is even as light as we can get it, it can kind of destroy some of the really like sort of special things that we have going on. So sort of knock that back with the smudge a little bit. Okay, now here's where you can kind of start to get into a little bit of more of the structure. Now I will erase a little bit here, I think, just to get rid of some of that harshness of the line, just a little too big. But I like that I have this, I have a series of guidelines, right, that sort of, they correspond to like to the bottom row or the bottom part of the teeth, and of course like right here where it meets, where the tooth meets the, you know, the upper dental palate, right? So the maxilla. Okay, so got this center line going on, the center line, and that's, so it's gonna go right between the two front teeth. So I still got my eraser going. So if I just sort of, if I erase a little bit more carefully, I could start to shape out, like there's that edge of that tooth, and I'll relate it to, there's a little bit of an edge over here on that tooth. And that seems pretty good. So again, I'm gonna just a little carefully, you know, start to map out. I'm just mapping out, looking for, you can also like, you can take your pencil and you can look for like vertical relationships, right? So if you got this, you know, if you got the nose cavity drawn, maybe you see the outer edge of it, you feel comfortable with where it is. Maybe you can look and see, I think mine needs a little bit of love here. It's a little bit better. But so you can sort of look at this edge and then just drop a vertical line down, right? And just see what relates. And it's sort of like, it's really close. This eye tooth right here is edge of this eye tooth, from my perspective, it's really lines up really nicely with the edge of the nose cavity. And then so the right there is where just before the premolar, right? So just before the molars start to happen. And then there you have a little bit of detail. Okay, very good. Now I can sort of switch over, I think, and just add a little bit of darker value. I'm gonna make it really dark. So that way I can, and I'm gonna brace my hand a little bit because this is like a technical, let me brace my hand a little bit just so that way I, you know, can get, oh, too big. Make my, oh, I'm gonna go switch over to my technical pen for this part. Kind of like switching between like your Magnum or your liner. So for those tattoo, you'll know what I'm talking about, but a Magnum is like it's like a brush. It's a sort of a brush shape. It's needles that you tattoo with. And then the a liner is a much sharper point. It's much more similar to like a pencil. Okay, get in there. Let's see. And I'm just gonna describe the profile here of the teeth, separating them from the tabletop. There's a little bit of back and forth, yes. And I'm going to use the eraser to really, you know, give me any sort of, I want to remove, so I don't want to use the light color just yet. I want to reserve that for just the right moment. Okay. So a little bit, take a little bit of the value down there. Grab my liquify real quick and push that a little bit. That looks a little bit better for me. Yeah. Yeah. Liquify. Don't use it too much. You use it, but not too much. So, right. So it's pretty good. I want to go back to the marker and go with a very low opacity and whatever here. And now I want to just go back and describe the value of the teeth. Reblock that part in. Smudge, smudge, smudge. Smudge away some of that harsh line. All right, back to the brush. Oh, sorry. So I want to. So I see. For me, I have this. This is sort of an example of all of the form shadow right here for you, right? So you see, there's a highlight here, right? This is the brightest bright, and then there's a point right here where the light is no longer hitting the surface at all. It's all fairly, you know, subtle in value range, and then once you get to this part right here, this is called the terminator, right, or the core shadow. It's a dramatic drop off in tonal value. It drops dramatically in value, so you can really push this and get it pretty dark. It's almost like the darker that you can get it, the darker you can get away with it, the you know, the kind of the better that it works out. So all right, so I'm just going to push it. I'm going to wrap it up here in just a little bit. I think we're just about there, everybody. But you know, you can take this really far. You know, you can keep going with it and make it, you know, really a showstopper. Right, and then so I'm gonna back up just a little bit here. I'm gonna smudge out. Smudge out some of this. I like the direction that it was taking. Yeah, like that. And then I'm gonna knock this back just a little bit, bring some light. There's a little bit of light. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. A little bit of light underneath. Ugh. Ugh, too strong. A little bit of light underneath that edge of the cheekbone. And the cheekbone itself has the value. This has the darker value, just the actual object. Okay, sharpen that up. And then you know, again, I can go back and put in some reflected light, but there is a little lost edge right here. You know, like it's fairly close in value. If you squint, the values are close. And I think you can heighten it a little bit, right? You can get away with heightening it just a little bit, you know, just at the transition. Just erase some of that value, right? And that gives it gives the viewer just a little bit of a clue, like, all right, so where does it end and where does it not? Just don't go crazy with it, but smudge. Okay, very nice. All right, so let's just detail the teeth just a little bit more, shall we? I'm gonna go nice and dark. Got my brush, got my dark color, really small. As long as, you know, it's a little bit off, I won't lie. Maybe I can get away with it one more time here. Yeah, cool. So right, just liquefied it a little bit. Take a step back, right? I can make that, take a step back and see how it looks. So, you know, changing your perspective on your drawing, always a really good idea. I think there's, you know, if I'm being honest, is probably my screen is in the way here, so I can't really see where the shadow goes. You know, I could kind of probably make it up. Seems important, so maybe just a little bit more shadow back there. I want to keep the edge harsh, so nice harsh cast of shadow. It's probably good enough. Okay, anyway, so I can take a step back and I can look and see how everything's nice pattern of light and darks on this, I think. You know what I mean? It's maybe a little bit heavy here on the forehead, but you know, you may like that. It may add a little bit of drama to it. So I'm really close in there. And I'm okay with the alignment. It could be a little bit better, but nice and strong opaque tone. And then I'm going to use this slightly smaller brush and get in there. Just, I want to describe these little small darks in between each of the teeth, right? So I'm not drawing a harsh outline around each one, you know, in this case, because remember we were talking about making them one mass of teeth and then individuating them later. So in this case, the line is almost like or this little dark or an outline that I might put on it anywhere would be a detail to sort of come to later. So just a little less here, not quite as strong, and then even more subtle as we go back. Right, so I might just sort of lighten it down a little bit. It'll little crease between them, but not as dark in the value. It's not as dark as this dark shadow. So if you can vary the value of your lines that you're making, you probably have more success. So just getting in there a little bit of the detail, and then let's see. Again, I want to try to establish some proportion. So this edge here, darkest, sort of core shadow, like I was at the Terminator, and a little bit of a transitional, little bit of transition, a little bit of an edge there, and there's one more tooth between these two. All right, and then these ones they do get really lost back here, and that's okay. I think that actually, you know, a little bit of the drama, a little bit of the mystery, there's nothing wrong with that. So block in, just to sort of glaze over that area, and just you want it to have like a unified tone, but then we can always knock it back with a little bit of our eraser, and just make sure that, again, a little bit of mystery, maybe not too much mystery. You want to be able to see where the form ends. A little smudge. Yeah, kind of nice. Okay, and hopefully this starts to get nice and sharp for you. Again, keep squinting. Keep on squinting. That will really, really help. I might even just use a little bit of eraser here just to sharpen up this cast shadow even more. Sharpen up even more. Lock in and then erase it out. Something like that. It starts to work a little bit. You can play around with it. Okay. Again, I think you can keep messing with it and keep on, refining it and making it sharper and sharper. This is where all your sharp edges are really going to come into play. You can really, there's some lost edges again, but then you get some really, really sharp ones. Sorry about that. All right. Pretty good. And so now I'm going to quickly just grab some of the highlight color and make it nice small. I'm going to look for the highlights that I have here. I might have a little bit of a highlight there. I'll use my eraser first. Just see if I can't. Right here at the part of the nose. See, it really gets strong highlight without doing anything with the eraser. But let's see, I can use the eraser a little bit more possibly to describe. All right, now I do have my highlight color picked out, and so so I'll jump in with it, and there's going to be some highlights right here. They're nice and small, right here on this, just right there at this point of the tooth, a little bit, and then there's another one right there, and then maybe just a light one right there. Here, it's not all over, not the whole tooth, it's not all over the place. It's just, you have to look for it, but there's going to be like a spectral highlight. The plane, right? This micro plane, the small plane that, remember we were talking about the block. The block has planes, right? Well, all of these little facets here, in the teeth, you can all think as planes, and they're reflecting light back at various angles. And so the planes that are most perpendicular to the direction of the light are going to give us that brightest highlight. Okay, and just a little bit of highlight right here to sort of show, again, not everywhere, but just a little one there. Okie dokie, and just a little bit of not so big. And here. And a little bit here. I don't want to jump around, but I'm just sort of looking at like all these, all the places where the light is really hitting nicely. And that's where I want to focus. I'll quickly jump back over to the dark color and push this nose even darker. Go with my full dark, and there are some small like areas in here that are really, that are just a detail, right? Just a little bit of a detail. Some empty spots where your optic nerves come through, right? All of your optic nerves have to travel, through the skull and into the cranium inside of it. So, and again, you can start to adjust these edges. You can use, you have to squint and look and see like, what's what, but right here, this edge has a little bit of reflected light. So this edge, I knock it back I don't want to go too much, but again, if I can separate this a little bit, it makes a cavity for us to sort of visually go into, right? We can sort of see the separation. And then, so on this part right here near the glabella, I can see there's a little bit of light. And then over here, the form gets the value, right? The form gets the darker value. So not quite so dark, but right there. And there is a little reflected light there, but it's still, the form gets the slightly darker value in that case. So, okay. Well, again, I think we're at a pretty good place to sort of wrap it up, I think. Let me try to adjust this just a little bit. I'm making it up, but too much. Again, the shadow can be somewhat subtilized here, make it a little more subtle, but it's the crispness of it that helps us sort of discern whether it's whether it's a cast shadow or a form shadow. So, I'm just sort of.
I'm going to show you what I got. I'm going to have
Yeah.
to watch the teeth and the.
No, let me spotlight you real quick. I want to see. I'd love to see what you both have. So, let me see here.
It doesn't have the pink and green in it that's showing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've never.
It's a real improvement too. I think from last week. You know what I mean? Like you did a really nice drawing last week, but this one's even better. What do you think?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I'm learning so much. I've got to.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it really is. Well, yeah, you controlled all of the lights and all of the darks. So really nice. Let's jump onto Jeremy's here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Nice.
Well, you drew
so
Good.
So I like it, Jeremy. I think it's stylized. I might say I think I want to highlight the positive things. You really established a super strong value in the nose and in the mouth. And so I think that gives us visually a place to sort of go into. Now, I think there could be a couple other places where you could make maybe you could give a little bit more shadow, like underneath the tongue, there could be a shadow under that. That would actually, I think, like help us sort of, push the tongue out even further towards us, right? The eyeballs themselves maybe could use a little bit more shading under the brow. So just like if you can look at yourself right now in your screen, if you can see yourself, you can see like your eyebrows. It's nice and it's really dark, like underneath the eyebrows. And generally when the light's coming from above, we see that often. We see often like that the eyes get shaded because of our brows. So a little bit of value there, I think, a little bit of shading underneath the eyebrow would be good. But I mean, overall, it's very clean. It looks like a tattoo. So so I think you're onto something. Great work. Did you have a good time?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Please come back again. It was really great having you, and I really enjoyed everyone's work. So, all right, I'm gonna.
Just say goodbye.
Yeah, it's time. It's time to go, and let's see. All right. Okay. So it's about that time, and so I just want to thank everyone that came today and participated. It really was was so much fun getting to draw. I worked up a sweat, as you can see, right? So again, I think drawing is a physical act, right? And so the more that you practice it, and the more that you sort of let yourself engage with it as a physical act, I think the more you're going to get out of it, right? So from all of us at Reinventing the Tattoo Network,